Hello everyone, I am very excited to do this video talking about the new movie, A Complete Unknown, which is a biopic, or at least I'm calling it a biopic, even though the director, James Mangold, didn't really feel that about it, but I'm going to call it a biopic. A biopic about Bob Dylan in his early years, covering a range of 60s years from 1961 to 1965. And man, was it really enjoyable. I'll start with the direction. James Mangold, wonderfully done. Really sets the mood of that period. Got to talk about the performances. The performances are all good. Starting, of course, with praise for Timothy Chalamet, who plays Bob Dylan. He manages to sing, play harmonica, play guitar. He does it himself. So too do a couple of other actors here. They perform their own vocals and stuff. But sticking with Timothy for a minute, I mean, he manages to capture the mystery, the enigmatic personality of Bob Dylan, what made him unique and interesting. When it starts the film, right away, I'm thinking to myself, you know, he doesn't really look enough like Bob to me. But boy, almost immediately you get the vibe and you can feel that you're watching Bob Dylan. So that's what works. He actually captures the whole mystique of Dylan. So I'll start with him in what I consider to be an Oscar-worthy performance. And secondly, Edward Norton, who plays Pete Seeger. He looks like Pete. He embodies Pete. I really believe that he was Pete Seeger. Edward Norton, Best Supporting Actor, I'm all for that. A nomination. Monica Barbaro, if I'm saying her name properly, who plays Joan Baez. To me, she doesn't look enough like Baez, but it's okay. She does a fantastic job in this movie. And after a while, you just start believing that they're the characters. The question is not so much just about superficial appearance. It's about whether they can embody the spirit and the aura of the person. Now we have Elle Fanning, sister, I believe, of Dakota Fanning, who plays Dylan's first serious girlfriend, who he meets in Greenwich Village in New York. Played by Elle Fanning. We're talking about Sylvie Russo. Now, that's the one slight thing about the movie I wish had been different, but it's such a tiny quibble, it doesn't matter. The name of the character originally is not, the real person is not Sylvie Russo, that's the character's name, but Susie Rotolo was the name of Dylan's girlfriend. And I read that Dylan himself kind of wanted to use another name for the movie too. You know, I think it was someone else was thinking maybe changing the name. And so too Dylan's suggestion as well, because he felt that she kind of was, I don't know, if I remember right, I'm paraphrasing, more natural, not really one of the like stars or famous people in this entourage in real life, that maybe her name should be Sylvie instead of Susie. So that's the one thing, but she does a fine job. And I'm going to also give a shout out to Dan Fogler, who plays Dylan's manager, Albert Grossman. He does a good job too. Now, I talk about spoilers, whether spoilers when you do a review or not. There's nothing really to spoil here, but I'll give you a little rundown of it. The movie, it starts out in 1961, Greenwich Village in New York City. Young Bobby Dylan, really Robert Zimmerman, arrives in the village to visit his idol, who's hospitalized with a serious disease, Woody Guthrie, who inspired him and who he kind of emulates his life on, his style from. And while he's at the hospital to visit Woody Guthrie, he also meets Pete Seeger, who's a mutual friend and cohort, so to speak, with Woody. And both men are impressed with Bobby Dylan because he offers to perform a song that he wrote, a song for Woody, it's called. And right away, he impresses both men. And Seeger gets really, really taken with Dylan and starts to introduce him to the current scene going on for folk music in New York City. So right away they become buddies and friends and all. And along the way, when he's in the city, he does meet Sylvie Russo, And as I say, that's his girlfriend. But then he's also carrying on a relationship with Joan Baez. Once Joan Baez starts coming into the scene, it's kind of a triangle here. I don't know how much I should mention here is really accurate or not accurate. I have a thing about me where when I watch a biopic, I want everything to be as accurate as possible. I know sometimes they take artistic liberties. Because I'm not that much well-versed in Dylan, as I am, say, the Beatles or Elvis, I can't always tell if there's things that are twisted here a little bit for artistic purposes, but there's a triangle going on here, as it turns out. But Joan Baez, in the movie, immediately sees how talented that Dylan is, and he has such a voice for political matters that's going on. Dylan starts writing amazing songs, and I'll get into that later on. There are like, I don't know how many songs. I don't know if I got them all, but there are a lot of songs in this movie performed. And sung by Timothée Chalamet. And I have to tell you, he does a real good job sounding like Dylan. Maybe arguably a little better than Dylan, maybe, but still very close. And some of the ones I jotted down here along the course of the movie are Song to Woody, Girl from the North Country, Masters of War, Times They Are A-Changin', Hard Rains Are Gonna Fall, It Ain't Me, Babe, Highway 61, Blowin' in the Wind, Subterranean Homesick Blues, Like a Rolling Stone, Mr. Tambourine Man, It's All Over Now, Baby Blue. Those are just some of the ones that I did from memory. I remember thinking, you can't have always the full song done, but boy, in a couple of cases, I was hoping he would do a little more. I was hoping when they did A Hard Rains Are Gonna Fall in the movie that Dylan would sing a few more lines that really hit you hard. And also the song Masters of War, which is really done nicely, has some of the poisonous, nasty, angry words in it. But, if he could have done more of that song, it really would have hit home. That's a really good scene performed in one of those downstairs, dark, dimly lit coffee houses in the village. And that's another thing I want to say. I like the way the songs are integrated in here. Although there are a lot of songs, they're done in such a perfect way. They're placed appropriately within the story at good places, they're expertly woven in there. So it doesn't take you away from the story. Doesn't become too overwhelming with the music and no story, that kind of thing. And it's perfect in that regard. Now, as Dylan starts to go on, he makes his first album, which is called Bob Dylan, self-titled. But ironically, the record company, Columbia, kind of forces him to do cover songs on there. And Joan Baez, among others, are kind of trying to coax Dylan into doing his own music. He meets Albert Grossman along the way, who immediately wants to become his manager and sees the talent there and everything. Signs with Columbia, does the first album, Bob Dylan. It only sells like 1,000 copies or something, but the next album, which is one of my favorite albums of all time, one of my favorite Dylan albums, The Freewheelin' Bob Dylan comes out, and that makes a big difference. So as time goes on, Dylan becomes famous rather quickly, it seems. Sometimes that can hit you pretty hard, and the film manages to show Dylan struggling with the onset of fame, which is good. And ultimately, he starts to get disinterested in performing the folk music he's been in, the protest songs and political stuff, really, and wants to go into more electric rock music. We know the story. Dylan went electric, okay? And that all culminates in the finale of the movie at the 1965 Newport Folk Festival, where Dylan does not want to do any of the usual songs that they want him to do, that he's been doing, the folk songs. He wants to plug in and go electric with a band, and he wants to do, good thing I just remembered this song, Maggie's Farm, that's another one. I almost forgot that one. Maggie's Farm and Like a Rolling Stone, and much to the chagrin of Pete Seeger, who wants him to stay that way. And I forget the name of the person running the Newport Folk Festival, and who had been for a number of years up to there, who insists it's about folk music. This is folk music. It's not about that British electric crap, like the Beatles. And the Beatles do get a mention in there. I'm glad they mentioned the Beatles at some point in the movie, but in the right context. That this is the new British electronic kind of stuff, and this is not where we want Dylan to go into. They want him to stay in a hole, stay in a pigeonhole into the corner, doing the folk sound. So he's getting interested in the British invasion and the electric music. Good place to end this particular movie. There's a lot of drama going on when Dylan defiantly goes on stage to perform music his way with the other people in his entourage, some of them anyway, among them Pete Seeger, trying to stop him, even if necessary, even to get an axe if necessary to chop the cords, the sound wires feeding the music. So anyway, yeah, I just was really taken with this. I think I covered a lot of it. The screenplay is by director James Mangold, but also written with Jay Cox. It was a great job. I've seen my share of biopics. This is the best one I've seen. This is number one for me. I can't say enough about this. The performances, the music, the renditions of the music, the placement of the music, getting to know the characters, especially Dylan. Definitely, for me, on my scale of 4-star movies, I give this 4 out of 4 stars. And lastly, I'm going to say something important that I think young people will be taken with this. What I hope a movie like this will do is, if you're a younger person, Gen Z or even younger, you're not that familiar with Dylan, or even if you know Dylan but he's never been your cup of tea, I think you still can watch this movie and you'll like the movie. You may even start to have more of a appreciation for Bob Dylan, even if you don't know who he is, if you're younger, or if you know who he is but you don't care for him much. Give it a shot. It's a good movie at the very least. Can't say enough about this. I am over the moon about it. Great movie.